For more, let's bring in junkscience.com founder Steve Milloy. Steve, good to see you. Listen, if you look at the EPA, they're trying to remake the whole American economy, and it seems like we don't have a lot of transparency. Do you think a Republican House can actually, build some transparency into the EPA?
Well, they can't do it by themselves. I mean, what they can have right now is, oversight hearings, and they can bring EPA up and ask them tough questions. These rules that EPA has proposed to force us into EVs, to shut down the coal industry, these rules are manifestly illegal. Every lawyer in Washington knows that, especially in light of last year's Supreme Court decision in West Virginia versus EPA. If Congress hasn't said that EPA can do these things, then EPA can't do it. But the Biden EPA is doing it anyway. They know it's illegal. It'll be overturned by Supreme Court if they do it. But in the meantime, they're causing the sort of chaos they want in industries, and so they can control.
Steve, in this Senate hearing, this was run by Sheldon Whitehouse, and it was, of course, about dark money. And he has used the scourge, and I use that word lightly, of dark money to try and undermine the authority of the Supreme Court. He has introduced the Disclosed Act, trying to intimidate political donors. Same MO, trying to squelch free speech. And now he's going after dark money behind fossil fuels. Wow. What do you make of that? Does it have legs?
Psychologists call this projection. The money behind the climate alarmist movement is all dark. From Arabella Advisors and George Soros, who knows who the donors are. And Sheldon Whitehouse benefits from that. He's just trying to draw attention away from what he's actually doing. That's the projection. I think the good news in this whole thing that has not been mentioned is that, since 2014, we've emitted 500 billion tons of emissions, and there has been no global warming. Now, we are told that every emission warms the planet, emissions drive warming. Where's the warming? It's not happening. So Sheldon Whitehouse wants to make a big scene about, dark money. Yeah, the oil industry is actually on Sheldon Whitehouse's side, not my side. The oil industry wants to have climate regulations, not me. So, he's the one that's being supported by fossil fuel money.
Yeah, Steve, I want to switch gears on you here because nearly $1 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act will be put towards making federal buildings eco-friendly. The Biden administration announcing the plan Tuesday in their latest attempt to make a dent in the fight against climate change. So first off, the Inflation Reduction Act, $1 billion to remake Washington, D.C. office buildings more eco-friendly. What impact is this going to have on climate? And a good use of money, Steve, is it?
So even if you believe the emissions hoax, the amount of energy saved by, $1 billion worth of renovations in D.C. is not going to accomplish anything. But I'd also like to point out the last time we did this kind of foolishness was in the 1970s. And we did it at EPA, as a matter of fact, the old EPA building, 401 M Street, and it caused sick building syndrome. All these renovations are just going to make these buildings more airtight, more unhealthy. They're going to cause sick buildings and actual sickness.
Every wife or husband in America is going to use that excuse for home renovations. We have to green our house, honey. We need to spend $200,000 to green our kitchen, honey.
Steve Milloy.
We don't.
Go ahead.
No, we don't really need to. Energy is cheap. It should be cheap. We should be able to have fresh air flowing through our house and the energy to heat or cool the air as needed. We don't need to live like, they tried to do in the 70s, which was a disaster.
AOC's Green New Deal calls for all homes to be refitted and made to be more climate friendly. Steve Milloy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hollywood's climate summit starting, and they're bringing in the big